Good evening, boys and girls and Susty tribe. Let me just expand my screen. So first of our meat-free Monday cook-alongs this evening. So the idea is that we're going to do a recipe. It takes about half an hour to do. So it'll be on the dinner table within about half an hour, 45 minutes if we follow the instructions. So easy peasy, fantastic doing this on the holidays, and you can pull this out of your hat during busy term time as well. So the recipe is written out in full in the description box below, so just copy and paste that. If you want a printable version of the recipe, subscribe to the newsletter. So the first thing you need to do is to pop on your 200 degrees fan oven, so that circulates the hot air really well, cooks really quickly, nice and efficient. I've cranked up my heat a little bit, so mine will cook a little bit faster tonight, so that we're not waiting around for too long for the nachos to cook while we prepare our toppings. So this does not exist anywhere in Mexico, but it is Mexican inspired, so Mexican-ish. So instead of using the corn tortilla chips, the nachos, we are making our own nachos out of sweet potatoes. So there's lots of different sweet potatoes you can buy, but what we're aiming for are the orange sweet potatoes. So you know these guys, and leave the skin on because the skin goes fabulous and crispy and delicious. So if you've got a dehydrator at home, it's a little oven that cooks on a very, very low temperature, you can actually make proper crisps out of your sweet potatoes. They're not very expensive. They're about 200 euros if you want to invest in one, and there's lots of fun things you can do with them. Okay, so we want to get our sweet potatoes sliced as thinly as possible, because then they're going to cook faster and they're going to be crispier. Bear in mind that sweet potato does have quite a lot of moisture in it, so these will be soft rather than super crispy, but the edges will be nice and crispy. So we've got our baking tray ready, all right? Now this is a really nice non-stick baking tray. If yours isn't easy to clean, it isn't such a good non-stick, just line it. For followers that know me well, you know I like the silicone sheets, or you can use greaseproof paper or parchment paper. Make sure that it's compostable and just pop it in your compost bin. I'm going to use this terrifying weapon tonight, the mandolin. This is actually a very nice one. This is the OXO, O-X-O. They make really nice kitchen gadgets, and you can adjust it at the back depending how thick you want it. So I have got this on the middle setting, which is about 2 millimeters thick. And you just slice away. Now it does have a grip, which I will use in a minute. Another very famous brand of mandolin is the Xylus, and that's pretty big. That I'd say is perhaps more for a professional kitchen. And I'd say, just to be a little bit more careful, let us put our tea towel that was under my chopping board under the tray. It just stops it from wobbling. Because the last thing I need is a first aid emergency live on camera. Okay, so you're going to do 4 of these for 4 servings. Now this was a fairly sort of medium-sized one. You get bigger ones. To do the last little bit, you can just prang it with this guard and carry on grating. The other thing that you can do that's really advisable, if you're very keen on doing a lot of cooking and you like the very thin mandolin slice that you can get, you get chainmail gloves. So literally chainmail like the knights used to wear, and you get a glove for, use it on your right hand or your left hand, and wear that rather than potentially chopping a bit off your finger. So spread these out, and now we want to season them really well. Clean hands, so wash and dry your hands really well first. And I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil on them, salt and pepper, and some smoked paprika. Now, we're all about zero waste in the Susty kitchen. So if you have those little sachets of fajita seasoning or taco seasoning or anything like that that you haven't used, perhaps you bought a fajita kit or something, now is the time you can use up those odds and ends. I make mine from scratch, not showing off. It's just what I do. So I'm going to use some smoked paprika. So just a good drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. Again, I'm using less because I've only got 1 sweet potato on here. Pretty decent size one. So if needs be, you can do 2 trays of these. The sweet potato is quite large. Sometimes they're quite small. So some nice sea salt and a good sprinkle of smoked paprika. So there's a wonderful chili in Mexican cooking called chipotle. It's a smoked jalapeno, and it's fabulous. It's so good. It's not often you find the powder of it though. So smoked paprika is a fairly close cousin to it in flavor. Okay, so I'm just using my tongs. Now, if it was just me, I would just get my hands stuck in there. I don't want to walk away from camera for too long. Just make sure that everything gets a good coating. Flying sweet potato, that's all right. So I just want to season this side. And you want a single layer of sweet potato so that it doesn't steam. You want it to go nice and crispy. All righty. Okay. So if you don't have a mandolin, just use a nice sharp knife. Okay, I can see questions. If anybody has any questions, you need to be a subscriber in order to post a question. That's just a little security feature. Okay, so there we go. We've got salt and pepper and put a little bit more smoked paprika on, just some of these bare bits. There we go, and into the oven. Now, as I was saying, if I had the full tray, it would take about 20 minutes, but because I've got one decent sized sweet potato on there, it will take far less. So in the meantime, we can prepare our toppings. All right, so let's have a little chat about this. I wrote it into the recipe. I gave you a list of suggested toppings and then also some other bits and bobs that you can add if you want to. So again, if you're a follower of the Sassy Kitchen, you'll know that we're all about zero waste, and the recipes are designed to sort of expand and contract depending on what you have in your fridge, in your fruit bowl, in your vegetable drawer. That's what it's all about. So if you didn't have sweet potatoes, you could have used regular corn tortilla chips. And if you see the blue corn tortilla chips, they're amazing. So delicious, well worth a try. Okay, so this particular recipe, we're going to scatter over some black beans. So these are black beans, and they literally are very darkly colored beans, and they're small, they're firm, they're absolutely delicious, really, really, really good for you. More widely available now than they used to be, but if you don't have these, you can also use kidney beans. Absolutely no problem whatsoever, also equally delicious, and pinto beans, which are sort of spotty, brown on the outside, which are absolutely delicious. And you can mash them slightly or you can leave them whole, entirely up to you. So if you bought the canned beans, they're obviously completely cooked and they're still really, really nutritious. There's nothing wrong with them. They lose up to 20% of their nutrients by being cooked and canned, which is okay. It's not the end of the world, great for convenience. You can, of course, cook them from scratch. No problem with that. I do like to keep a few cans just for convenience sake. And canned foods, the actual cans, recycle really well. So wash them really well and dry them really well. People forget that, and into the recycling, and they're really good for that. So black beans are obviously a key topping. And then if you've got some guacamole, you can absolutely add some guacamole when you come to serve it. We're just going to chop up some fresh avocado. We're not going to turn to guacamole. Similarly, if you love making fresh salsa, you can actually make a pico de gallo, which is the fresh tomato salsa, and add that before it bakes or afterwards. I'd probably add it before it bakes and a little bit extra afterwards. We're just going to dice up a tomato. Now, I've got loads of cherry tomatoes and heirloom tomatoes in the fridge, so I could have used a multitude of them. I just chose a regular bog standard big tomato, so I can show you how to dice it. I also have a little bit of leftover sweet corn from lunch, and I made a salad for lunch. So frozen sweet corn, tinned sweet corn again, or if you cooked with a fresh sweet corn on the hob, just slice it off. A little bit of something oniony. So again, red onion, perfect. And I have a bunch of these purple scallions. So we call spring onions scallions in Ireland. So regular spring onions or scallions, all these purple ones are delicious. So I want to use some of these. You can use more. As I said, I'm doing about a quarter of the recipe. So that's why you're seeing everything reduced down. And when we talk about our zero waste, I have a few odds and ends of fresh peppers. So some yellow peppers and some red pepper that I'd left over from doing the garden focaccia. So I'm going to add those. And then this is something fun. This is actually South African. These are peppadews. Now, I was super lazy, and I bought the ones that are chopped up already. So these are native to South Africa. They're little red pepper, or stick yellow ones, and they are spicy and sweet at the same time. If you live in Ireland, yeah, there are the peppadews. You'll recognize that logo. You'll find these, Dunnes Stores has these, Tesco's has these. But because the name is trademarked, you'll find something very similar. It's grown in North Africa, and it might be called picante peppers or something like that. You get them stuffed with cream cheese. It's a very, very popular nibble. I know Aldi makes these ones in a little container with their antipasti. So if you'll see them, you'll know it. So I like the peppadews. I use them a lot. I'm South African. But besides that, they're delicious. They add a bit of something. They're not super spicy. But if you don't have these, you can also get the jalapenos in the jar. Aldo Paso makes them. The green jalapenos, which are a type of chili, and they're quite mild. They're quite mild and sweet, and those are really good. Cheese-wise, I've got some grated cheddar cheese. If you had something else, use that. I'm very fond of feta cheese. I'm going to crumble some on as well. And obviously, there's different types of cheeses used in Mexican cuisine that we can't necessarily get here. So that's why we're just playing around and substituting a few other things. And then when it comes out of the oven, we're going to chop up a fresh avocado. As I said, if you've got some guacamole, you can lob some guacamole on. Lots and lots of fresh lime juice, some fresh coriander, and some blobs of sour cream. In my case, I'm using creme fraiche. Similar to sour cream, I'll talk about it a little bit later, and that's how I'm going to serve it. And you can add a few drops of hot sauce as well. So you can see how this is customizable. So what I've got here that I didn't have in the original list, I've got some fresh peppers, I've got some sweet corn, and I'm using the scallions instead of the red onion. Okay, so I want to chop these quite finely. So what I recommend is slice them lengthways. Now you can do this with your little knife. If one of my school children students, you know, I like these little knives. These are Victorinox, the same guys that make the Swiss Army knives, and those are great. They chop most things. So I'm going to use my chef's knife though. So slice it lengthways first, because it gives it a really, really small dice. I don't like big lumps of onion. Make things to your preference, you know, and if you don't know the way you like something, experiment and see. But scallions are very mild, so you shouldn't have any issues with them. And quite often people that can't tolerate regular onion find that they're okay with a bit of spring onion. It's a nice fresh flavor, makes a nice garnish. Okay, so that is a spring onion. I'm just going to have a little look at our sweet potatoes just to see how they are. Oh, excellent. They're actually doing brilliantly. So I've just switched them off. So I cranked up the heat in mine. So let me finish chopping quick. So let me do the peppers first so that my chopping board isn't wet. So I'm going to just do this. This is a sort of medium-sized pepper. Now I wouldn't normally chop a pepper lengthwise like this, but I was trying to make petals for the garden focaccia. So I'm just pulling out the seeds. And I tend to, with peppers, slice from sort of the wet side, the fleshy side. Again, you can use a big knife or your little knife. I'm so used to using the little knife when I do kids' classes. I forget that there might be adults watching. You can leave them in long strips, but I think it's easier to pick things up if we do all of this as a small dice. So this is called your mise en place. Everything in its place. The kids get told this a lot, that you need to chop everything beforehand. So ideally, what would happen is before you put anything in the oven, you get all of this ready. Because as you can see now, my sweet potato nachos I have cooked really quickly because I sliced them really thin and I cranked up the heat. So tomato, we want a small dice, so let's slice it in half, and then 2 horizontal slices, not fully to the end, and then slice down. And this is going to give us the dice. Okay. 2 slices horizontally. So this is a great way also to use a produce that's looking perhaps a little bit sad, is if you're like this tomato is a little bit squishy. So it wouldn't be fabulous in a salad because it is a little bit squishy, but it's absolutely fine in this because it's going to get cooked. So that's absolutely hunky-dory. Let's pop this in a mise en place bowl. And then I'm going to take out my sweet potato nachos. And we can start building them. So this is a really, really quick dinner. And as I'm saying, you can build upon it, and ideal for Meat-Free Monday. I'm just going to put something down first so that I don't scald my board. And as my students get told a million times, don't take a wet tea towel to take things out of the oven, so you'll scald yourself. So check this out. So as you can see, the benefits of slicing them really, really thin is they actually have got nice and crispy. You can see the steam coming off of them. So that's some of that moisture that's lifted. So let's start building. So a scattering of black beans. So this is about a quarter portion for one. I might regret doing that later. But why didn't I do the full lot? So I'll eat the full lot. Just when you come to serving this, I'm going to say this to you now before yellow pepper. So that was black beans, sweet corn, yellow pepper. This is the extra ingredient. Is you want to lift this off with a silicone or a plastic or rubber, something like that, spatula, because you don't want to destroy the non-stick. Okay. So this is a really good quality non-stick pan. So let's keep it like that. And modern non-stick shouldn't have the same chemicals in them like the old-fashioned stuff did, so it shouldn't be harmful. So you can add some of your tomato now, or you can add it as a fresh salsa. Or if you happen to buy the jars of salsa, you can also use that. I'll tell you what to you. Before we go any further, season the tomatoes. There's things like tomatoes need a lot of seasoning. They like salt and pepper, and later on we need to season the avocado. So give it a bit of a season. And then what else do I have here? I've got some cheese, I've got my feta cheese, and I've got my peppadews. So if you can't open the jar yourself, give a little tap, and that just breaks the seal a little bit. Don't whack it because it's glass. I'm going to add the peppadews now. They're really very, very soft and delicious. They're fabulous in all sorts of things. Can't recommend them highly enough. They're addictive once you start. I'm adding them now as sort of a garnish because I sort of want the flavors to mix. Okay. Just an even layer. It's looking good, guys. It's looking good. All right, so some grated cheese. I like using a mixture of cheeses. You'll notice that. Mozzarella is really good because it goes a sort of golden crusty. It's a golden crusty vibe, which is really nice. It is a melting cheese. But now I don't have any mozzarella. And as we say, use what you have, zero waste. So a little bit of feta cheese. So feta cheese doesn't melt, but it will soften a little bit. And it's just lovely. It's so good. I use feta a lot. It's traditional Greek cheese, but it's now widely available. And it's just fantastic. So from a sustainability point of view, dairy farming is problematic, as we know. So I tend to use dairy judiciously, and I also support organic farmers and small local producers. Let me just wash my hands quickly. These nachos absolutely do not need cheese or sour cream. They're absolutely fantastic and delicious and wonderful on their own if you don't eat cheese, and you can also get vegan alternatives. that are really good. Okay, so we've built out our fantastic nachos. Excellent. So as I said, you could have 2 trays going on. Okay, brilliant. Excellent. So if you have any questions, drop them into the chat and I will answer them as soon as I see them. So let us get our toppings ready. Alrighty, so what do we have? I've cranked up the heat on that again. What you're aiming for now is really just to heat everything through and to make sure the cheese is melted. That's it. It really doesn't take a long time. And so the thinner your layer is, the quicker it's going to happen. So I could have had 2 trays in there if I wanted to go really, really quickly. Entirely up to you. So toppings-wise, let us get our avocado ready. So we're going to know that the color of this avocado suggests that it's nice and ripe. And now I've pushed off the stem of this, but if you, oh, here we go, there's a little piece left. If you push off the stem, it should come away really easily. And if you look at the inside, it's not bright green where the little stem was. It's sort of a pale green bordering on brown. So a lot of injuries apparently have happened because of avocados. Let's see what the inside, oh, I don't know, this one could be a little bit past it. Let us see. Oh no, it's okay. There we go. This is very, very dark on the outside, so you just don't know how it's going to turn out. Alrighty, so we can actually peel this on our chopping board, but for the sake of this recipe, it doesn't have to look particularly beautiful or aesthetic. So I'm just going to take a teaspoon and just scoop that. Now, if I was doing a lovely salad, I would fan it out perhaps. So there's a little bit of a brown patch, and go ahead and use it. There's nothing wrong with it. And we are going to coat this. Now, the pip should just come out on its own accord. There we go. Because this is really, really ripe. This is a super ripe avocado. When you buy avocados, it's nice to have a few that are different stages of ripeness so that you can enjoy the natural leisure. So as you're saying, avocado likes seasoning, so salt and pepper. Also, red pepper flakes are so good and they work really well with our Mexican beans. And lime. I'm obsessed with fresh lime. It is essential. I'm putting my weight on this and rolling it so that I can get the maximum amount of juice out of it. You can pop it in the microwave, but I find that by doing that, it can be a little bit hot to handle. So if you just lean in there, get the juices flowing. And just to say this, and you'll hear me repeating this again and again, from a zero waste point of view, a lot of it is about how you store your food. And limes is going to be super juicy. Look at that. Do a full lime over the avocado. Limes need to be stored in the fridge. Out of all the citrus fruit, I'm a citrus farmer's daughter, so I'm telling you from my experience, out of all the citrus fruit, it really needs to go in the fridge. Because otherwise they go yellow and they go rock hard. You've probably had that experience. So give it a good squeeze. I keep my citrus peels and I turn it actually into a citrus oil cleaner. So I'm going to get a big bunch of fresh coriander. Coriander actually grows quite easily. Sesame has just killed a bush. So we'll be planting it again. Just gather a little bundle. And we are going to use the stalks as well. Because the stalks are very, very fine. If you just go slowly, you can use your little knife. Tuck your fingers out of the way. And then run your blade through. Coriander is soft. It's quite delicate. But it's not as delicate as basil. I normally get my students to tear basil rather than chop it. Because it's very delicate and it bruises. I think my nachos are almost ready, would you believe? Because, again, I have cranked up the heat. Okay. So what else do I have? Let me just get a little spoon for my... I'm using creme fraiche. which is very similar to sour cream, but it's just thicker. But you can even use cottage cheese. So cottage cheese, like a curd cheese, actually really nice. Forget about the 80s diet. It's really nice. Use what you have. Don't go and buy a whole lot of new things that you don't need. Delicious! Oh, yum! Oops. Put protective thingies down. These are little silicone handles, little hippos, in case you're wondering what on earth they are. Two minds as to whether they really work or not. Alrighty, so this looks amazing. Let me show you. Oh, let me decorate it first. So we've got our lovely fresh guacamole. Well, sorry, fresh avocados, not guacamole. Just make these chunks a little bit smaller. Now, I don't put the avocado on before, so I don't like hot avocado. It's like avocado on a pizza. Not a fan. But if you like it, it's your nachos. You do what you want to do. But personally, ugh, no thank you. Lots of lime juice, and pour the lime over it as well. Such a delicious flavour. I am so pleased with this. What a delicious supper. It's lovely on a summer's evening though. You don't want to spend too much time in the kitchen. And if you've got quite a hot oven, as I said, you can crank up the heat a bit. And as long as you're there to pay attention to what it's actually doing. Let me just get a clean spoon. I've used that one already. So some little blobs of sour cream or creme fraiche. Now I would normally do quenelles. Oh, so chefy in the Monday night. Well, half quenelles. I would actually put some hot sauce on those. I'm not going to, but I am going to be kind and share mine. And I know not everyone in my house likes hot sauce. So a few drops of hot sauce. So Tabasco would be an example of hot sauce. If you don't know what I mean when I say hot sauce, I'm just using the generic word for it. My personal favorite is Cholula. Obsessed with Cholula. And they've got a chipotle one, which is to die for. So let me show you our fabulous sweet potato and black bean nachos. There we go, boys and girls and adults. I don't think it's just not just kids watching us tonight. So I hope you've had a fantastic lesson and that your dinner's coming out really, really well. So follow me on Twitter, Instagram, which is @RoseanneStevens, and click on the link in the bio, and that will bring you to the Substack newsletter where we'll collect all the recipes. But as I said, you'll find it down below in the description box. And I'll see you on Friday for Tidy Friday. And this Friday we are doing fresh strawberry cupcakes. Amazing. So thank you so much, guys, and I shall see you soon.